I predict something is normally right, and I believe I told all of you that the Patriots is going to win the Super Bowl. This is downright sports, and this is the I told you so version of my show. If the first time ever watching, I'm Brent Reed, and I'm going to be the guy that's going to be bragging most of the show about the team that I picked to win the Super Bowl. That's not even my favorite team. But I like a good storyline, and the best storyline is the Patriots go on their revenge tour of 2016, aka 17, and Roger Goodell has to handle the trophy, which he did, and it was the most awkward moment of all time. I loved every last minute of it. And with that being said, the show always starts with the must know news, and we kick it off with the must know news, and that being the Patriots have won the Super Bowl again. It's their fifth Super Bowl in franchise history. They've been to 9. They've now won 5. They only trail the Steelers, who I believe have 6. But Bill Belichick and Tom Brady are the only coaches and player in Super Bowl history to have 5 rings. Super Bowl's been around for 51 years, and it shows you how hard it is just to get to the Super Bowl. They played the Atlanta Falcons. For those of you that don't know, they beat the Atlanta Falcons 28-34 in a epic comeback. To give you an idea, the Patriots were down in the second quarter going into halftime, 21-3, and then they still were losing in the third quarter when they the score in the third was 6-7. In the fourth quarter, the Patriots scored 19 points. Tom Brady had one, and then for the first time in Super Bowl history, they went into overtime where the Patriots would score the game-winning touchdown as Tom Brady just drove down the field and Atlanta never touched the ball again. For those of you that watch other sports shows other than my own, you would have seen or heard them talk about how Matt Ryan was the most efficient quarterback. He had such a great game. Well, you judge him. Tom Brady was 41 for 62 with 466 yards and 2 touchdowns passing. Matt Ryan was 17 for 23 with 284 yards with 2 touchdowns passing. Brady had to pass the ball because they couldn't run. The Patriots running game had 31 points a total of about 60-something yards, while the Atlanta Falcons were just doing what they wanted and stopped running the ball. Julio Jones, who's everybody's now the new flavor of the month, didn't score a touchdown. How about that? So you do the math and who was the better quarterback in that game. We already know who the best quarterback is. Not the guy who got the fake league MVP, the guy who should have really got the MVP, and that was Tom Brady. Matt Ryan he is the 8th straight quarterback to win the league MVP, but not win. May go to the Super Bowl and lose. So hey, that trend keeps going. The other news is no longer football news. It's now basketball. Michael Jordan has dissed the Golden State Warriors. Jordan told the Golden State Warriors owner that, hey, you won 73 games and it doesn't matter to crap. He used another word, basically, if you don't win the championship. Jordan's Bulls won 72 games, and the 1997-1998 season, 1996-97 season, they would win 72 games, but also had won the championship that year, beating the Utah Jazz, if I'm not mistaken. The Golden State Warriors last year won 73 games, beating the Bulls' regular season record, but did not win the championship, going up 3-1 against the Cavaliers, and just to turn around and lose it. LeBron had an historical post NBA Finals. And then finally, sticking with basketball news, Magic Johnson is back with the Los Angeles Lakers. Not as a player, not as a coach, but as an advisor. Jeannie Buss has hired him as she gets ready to take her hostile takeover to take the team from her brother. The Lakers are dreadful. I believe they only have 16 wins, which is more than they had last year, but they currently only have 16 now, and it's not that big a deal. If I find it, I'll put it on the bottom. But yeah, Magic is back, and they're going to try to help put this team back in the right direction and get them to win again. So we'll see how that works out. Sometimes you can't go backwards. You got to start fresh. I'm sure there's some younger guys out there that can help get this team moving in the right direction. But hey, some people just keep getting the same jobs over and over again. Anyway, that's the must-know news. When we come back, the topic of this week's show will pretty much be with the theme, sticking with the Super Bowl, but we're going to figure out the greatest teams in sports history in the 3 major sports: baseball and basketball and football. Downright Sports. This is the topic part of the show. AKA shout out to my man Brad, holding it down. Anyway, this topic is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a little different, only because I'm tackling something that's not going to make a whole lot of sense, but just bear with me. With the Patriots winning another Super Bowl, the question always comes up: dynasty, dynasty, dynasty. But the Patriots, like other teams that I'm gonna name, redefine dynasty. Dynasty could be 3 championships. Some say it's 4 championships. It's 4 in a certain amount of period of time. Patriots won a Super Bowl in 2014. That was their first Super Bowl in 10 years. Can you link the two? You can, only because they had the same head coach and the same quarterback and some other key players, but most of their core guys from the first championship in 2001, 2003, and 2004 were pretty much gone by then, but they still had the guys that make the team, that are the pretty much the cogs of the machine, and that was Brady and Belichick. But it made me think, who in each of the respectable franchises, I didn't want to touch hockey, because I think Montreal winning, and then you may have had the Islanders in the 80s, the Red Wings. They've had a few that have gone on streaks in the past. Not recently. Maybe the Blackhawks are recent. They've won like 3 out of 5 or something like that, 3 out of 4. But in any case, I took a look. I went through baseball, I went through basketball, and I went through football. Football has seen dominance like this before a few times. In the 70s, I would touch on it, in the 90s, and now in the aughts, or the 2000s, however you want to name it. I was going to only do, 3: NFL, NBA, MLB, but I think the NFL has to get 2 now that the Patriots have just won this one. I'm giving a little bit away. So let's dive into it. There's no particular order, who's better, who's worse, but my qualifications had to be teams that were great. Not good, won a Super Bowl, won a championship, went back. I'm talking just utter dominance. I disqualified the Celtics of the 60s, 50s and the 60s, only because of the fact that it was like 10 teams. And, back then it was like a little easier, but let's not, and they won 8 championships in a row, lost 2, and then won 2 more. Nobody's doing that in any sport. Well, nobody's doing that in any sport, but there's a team that came close. So I'm going to start with a team that is close, near and dear to my heart. A team, and it's interesting on this show here that I haven't talked about this team at all. I rarely talk about the Yankees, the New York Yankees, the Bronx Bombers, the team from my neighborhood. I rarely touch on them because I could do every show based on them, and I don't want to be that guy that's always talking about his favorite team. So, with that being, so let's dive into it and take the team I'm start with was with the Yankees. I got distracted. I got a text message or so. So the Yankees, in the 50s, not the 90s Yankees, which could have been the easy one, and everybody said you're just being a prisoner of the moment and you're just taking advantage because that's the team you watch. No, I went and did my research, and god dang, I'm trying to pull something up. But the Yankees pretty much in the 50s were flat out one of the greatest franchises or the greatest teams in the history of sports. Check this out. They won 4 World Series championships in a row, never done again. The only team to have done, the Yankees in the 90s won 3 in a row, but never 4. Won 3, went to 4 in a row, but only won 3. They won 4 in a row, and then they won 6 out of 9. So to give you an idea, in the 1950s, here it is right here, 1950. Oh, I even make it fun. Let's just do it like this. They won 1949, 1950, 1951, 1952, 1953. Okay, that's 5 World Series in a row. I was counting the 50s, but you can count 49. So that's 5 in a row. Then they would go back in 1955. They went, but they lost. Won again in 56. Won again in 58. Went in 59. Went in 57 and lost. They went to 10 World Series between 49 in 60, or I'm not even going to include 60 because I'm going to blow your mind. And they won. No team dominated. And then on top of that, the level of Hall of Famers, Yogi Berra, Mickey Mantle, Whitey Ford, uh, uh, goodness gracious, I'm just throwing out names right now. I'm going brain dead. But just to name a few. And these are not just like regular schmoes. These are ballers. Like, these are guys that, on anybody's team, they were Hall of Famers. But they were the most dominant team ever in the history of any sport, whether it was baseball. I mean, the only team that could come close to that was the Celtics. The Celtics of the 50s, but baseball by then had more teams. Now it was a lot different then. There was no playoffs. You won your conference, you went to the World Series. So you got to win 160. They played 150 something games and they played 162. It's like 154 games. So from April to September, you got to be number one the entire year, holding it down, being consistent, and then going to the World Series. You didn't have any playoff teams to overcome you. But it was a lot harder because you had to be number one from beginning to end. No slip ups. If you fell in second, there was no tomorrow. The season was over. The other team I put on this list, I think, is the obvious one, the Chicago Bulls of the '90s. This is the easy one. They won 3 in a row from '90 to '93. Jordan retires. They don't do anything. He comes back. They win another 3 in a row. In between one of those runs, out of the 6, they won 72 games one year, which was the greatest team of all time because they won seven. Well, some people will say it's the Celtics of the 85, 86 Celtics. But if you win 72 games in the regular season, go into the postseason, win the championship, that's winning like 90 something games, 80 something games. I'm not gonna sit here and do the math, but that puts you at a different plateau. Now, yes, they had Michael Jordan, they had Scottie Pippen, they had Dennis Rodman, but think of the other guys they had: Tony Kukoc, Steve Kerr, Horace Grant, Ron Harper. I mean, they had other guys that on other teams wasn't making them win championships. Some of these guys have won championships on other teams, but it's not because of them. They weren't the keys. But the Bulls team you could put that Bulls teams of the '90s, put them in the '80s, they win. You put them in the '50s, they win. You put them now, they probably win because they had defense, they had offense, they had one of the greatest coaches of all time. So you gotta put them in the conversation. And like I said, there's no particular orders on how these teams shape up. Then you also have the Spurs of the late '90s through the 2000s, and they have just been. They have 5 rings, 6 conference championships, and they were a fluke 3-point shot away from actually being 6-0 in the NBA Finals. Now, some teams can say, well, the Washington Wizards are undefeated in the NBA Finals, but they only went to 1, so that doesn't count. The Spurs have been consistent. They have the highest winning percentage in sports of any franchise right now. Over 600 over 600 for their record. They have a winning season every year. They've won over 50 plus games every year. They're going to do it again this year with Tim Duncan being retired. That has a lot to do with Greg Popovich and that team keep building. They David Robinson to Tim Duncan to Tony Parker and Ginobili to now you got can't think of the name, Kawhi Leonard. That there's just the consistency of excellence just keeps going. And the guys doesn't have to be on the Wheaties box. The guys don't have to be the most popular. They don't have Beats commercials. They're not pounding their chest telling their general manager, go find me talent as they're the greatest players in the world. They just go out and hoop, man. And without a question, they just go out and hoop. You realize I'm not going to put those Miami Heat teams on here with LeBron because they were sorry. Finally, I'm going to make it a twofer because I got to wrap this up. Steelers of the 70s and the Patriots of the 2000s. The Patriots of the 2000s are self-explanatory. We witnessed what they've done. 5 Super Bowl appearances. 7 Super Bowl appearances. 5 wins. They're 5-2 in this current run that they have. No other team has been consistent. They're the only team that has been to the Steelers. I think have gone twice in the odds. The Colts have gone twice. Denver's gone twice, and Carolina's gone twice. That is it. The Patriots are the level of consistency. You could talk to Aaron Rodgers. You could talk all these other guys. Peyton Manning. Tom Brady is that dude. Is he MJ? but he's the NFL's version of it. And then the Steelers of the 70s were just dominant. They won the Super Bowl 4 times, but they won it back to back those times. So they won it back to back twice, and then they went 2 years where they just made the playoffs, and then won it back to back again. They had 8 playoff appearances in the 70s. I don't know about you guys, it was only like 10 years in a decade, so that means they were in it all the time. So they, out of the 8 appearances, they got 4 Super Bowls. They just nobody else can claim that. They as great as the Cowboys want to lay claim. These Steelers were better. The Steel Curtain, that great defense. Terry Bradshaw, Lynn Swann. God, I can't think. They had a running back that was Franco Harris. Great teams that even today may hold up the test of time. Like that's how strong that Steelers team was. But those are my greatest teams of all time. If you disagree, so be it, because you have no comment and you can't call in the show. That's why I love it. But those were Brent Reed's greatest teams of all time. Now that could change. But as of right now, it's not, because you can't change the numbers and you can't go back in time and take away the championships. So, and I didn't include college, because I said I keep it professional, because there's been some great college teams, but let's just keep it, professional sports, because I don't want to do that much work. Anyway, we're going to come back and do a speed round of movies and video games. These segments have been going on too long. Movies and video games. This one's going to be a little quick, as quick as I can, because I get long-winded. In the 1970s, the movie industry got a little different. Blacks wanted to make their own movies. Black people wanted to make movies that had black people in it, black storylines that seemed to always have the same type of the type of movies were called black exploitation movies. Let me be clear. They were called black exploitation movies, made by black directors, written by black people, but they all kind of had the same storyline. Pimps, drugs, saving the day. And a lot of them started the same, where like a guy would be a pimp. He needed his hoes. He needed his money. He wasn't with the drug game, but then he had to save the neighborhood. And they all kind of turned out a little bit weird. Some of the most notable ones that stand out, Shaft. Shaft is probably one of the ones that was put together the best. You had Superfly, The Mac, Foxy Brown, where there's a whole show about Pam Grier that's just, you had Rudy Ray Moore as Dolomite. Gets no better than Dolomite. Then there was Blackula. You had Black Belt Jones, Willie Dynamite. Some of the other better ones, Cotton Comes to Harlem. These are just some to be named. Isaac Hayes got involved with Chuck Turner. You had Cross 110th Street, which is one of the better ones, in the Shaft category, where is real good. Shaft has some sequels. They don't get any better. The funniest one I've ever seen, and I watch a lot of them, is Black History Month, so I'm paying respect. But Petey Wheatstraw and the Devil's Son-in-Law, one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life. It is god awful, but it's hilariously funny. If you just want to see some naked women for no reason whatsoever, you can watch Black Mama, White Mama, starring Pam Grier and some no-name actress. And the movies, Pam Grier had like a string of like 10 movies where she was always naked and locked up in some concentration prison in like Asia somewhere, and then she would lead the revolution. They always found a reason to have a shower scene. They always found a reason to tear the clothes off. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen. And I'm not that old, but I've seen them recently. They always show them every now and then, but it's so great. It really is. I'm reading here, there's some I've never seen before. Like they had Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde. Like, that's some of the names they would come up with. It's fantastic. I feel like somebody should pay tribute to these movies and do them over again. It was really cool. But I wanted to pay respect to the black exploitation films. Some of them I've seen. It's hard to get your hands on them because there's no video stores anymore, and it's not like they're on Redbox or anything like that. So it's pretty interesting. But hey, thanks for joining in. Thanks for watching. This has been another Downright Sports with your man Brent Reed. Next week I'm gonna do a show. I'm already heading it up as NBA All-Star show where I'm going to eviscerate LeBron James. Yeah, I'm going in. Thanks for watching.